Tonight, Brittany Griner is back on U.S. soil after being detained for 10 months in Russia. The WNBA superstar landed in America early this morning. Our own Andrea Mitchell has more.
Brittany could return to the court in the future after 10 months in prison without good nutrition, without exercise, without physical fitness.
While, of course, we're all hopeful, but first and foremost, what's important is that she's feeling good. And that she's back with her family.
While in Moscow, Russia's notorious arms dealer Viktor Bout's homecoming was broadcast live on state media. Vladimir Putin taking a victory lap today. Our new exchange is possible. Yes, everything is possible, he says. Nicknamed the Merchant of Death, Bout had served 11 years of a 25-year sentence in the U.S. on multiple charges, including conspiring to kill Americans. Before he was caught, running a global network of cargo planes delivering arms to terrorists around the world, including $50 million of weapons to the Taliban, and a plan to sell surface-to-air missiles, guns, and drones to Colombian rebels. Could he again become a threat to America?
I do believe that Putin and the Russians are hoping that Mr. Bout is going to be able to restart some of these activities.
Which is why some Republicans say he should never have been sent home.
It was a dangerous concession to Vladimir Putin, and it will set a dangerous precedent going forward.
The president promises to keep pressing to free another American the U.S. says is wrongfully jailed in Russia, businessman and former Marine Paul Whelan.
Griner's release has brought heightened attention to other detained Americans, including Paul Whelan. Let's welcome David Whelan, Paul Whelan's brother. David, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us. I wonder if you think that the attention on Brittany's return could help pressure the White House and the Kremlin to move more quickly on Paul's case.
I don't think so. I think it maybe reminds anybody in the White House who thought that maybe they could take a moment to breathe, that there really won't be a moment. There is a little bit of a reset going on, I think, as they try and figure out how they can recalibrate to bring Paul home. The things that they were trying after the substantial proposal that had been made in the summer didn't work out. So I think that they need to come up with something new, but I think that they're already dedicated to it. I think the people you speak to in the White House and State Department, National Security Council, they're all already ahead of us moving that way.
As you all know, the State Department has said the Kremlin told them it was Griner or no one. Any sense of who or what it is they want for Paul's freedom?
No, they have in the past seemed to always want parity. If the U.S. government denied 9 visas, the Russians would deny 9 visas. If 9 people were kicked out, Russians would kick out 9 people. It's always about parity. So if that's really the way it's going, and the U.S. government wasn't able to find anything on hand that they could give to the Russians for Paul, then it may be that they are waiting, the Russians are, for a Russian spy to be captured outside, because Paul has been labeled a spy in Russia, and so that for them might be the parity. I don't know, but it seems that whatever it is, the U.S. government doesn't have it yet. And so I hope that they are able to figure out how to fulfill that need for the Russian government.
Yet being the operative word there, Paul did say he was greatly disappointed that more hasn't been done to secure his release. Can you just talk about what this has been like from your perspective?
It's been difficult, but I think our family has noticed this time, and I say this time because this is the second time that Paul has been left behind in Russia and another American has come home. When Trevor Reed came home, we didn't have any notice. We learned about it almost the same time that everybody else did. I certainly was learning about it as media was reporting it, and it was a very difficult thing for our family to experience and process, the disappointment of Paul not coming home, the excitement and thrill of Trevor coming back, but doing it publicly, in front of the media and so on. This time, the White House showed a little bit of trust for the Whelan family, and I'm very grateful for that. They let us know the day before that Brittany Griner was coming home, and Paul would not be coming home. And again, we were thrilled for Brittany to be going home to Sherelle. That was just such great news. Obviously, we had our own disappointment, but this time we were able to process it privately, and I think that really helped us to think about what we wanted to say and how we would say it, for us to be prepared to speak to Paul, which in the end we didn't have to because the embassy spoke to him directly. So again, we're seeing the White House's approach to wrongful detentions evolve and improve.
I would argue that is a great deal of trust. When was the last time you spoke to Paul? What did he tell you?
Paul was able to speak to our parents yesterday, and he expressed his disappointment, which he had already shared with the embassy. I think he is probably processing it in the same way we are, which is that you haven't fully processed it because you have to get on with the next day. And I think that that's really where he is now. He's going to have to continue to survive. He may have to survive for 12 more years in this labor colony. Hopefully, a U.S. administration will be able to bring him home. But, we get back to the work. I go out and do advocacy in the media with my sister. We talk to people in the government. We try and raise funds and make sure that he is supported and that he knows that people are supporting him so that he can get through each day.
Your sense, as you talk to officials, of how much Russia's war in Ukraine has potentially complicated efforts to get Paul home?
They seem completely unrelated. I think that what has happened is we look at Russia and we hear about the war and we sort of think, well, everything runs through that one pipeline, but there are many, many pipelines going on. The U.S. government is talking to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs about visas for diplomats and visas or other staff that they can put into the embassy. They're talking about nuclear arms treaties and many other things. So it's a complicated relationship, and Paul is one thread in that relationship, and I think all of those threads continue to hold.
David, you've been through this experience under two separate presidential administrations. You already talked about the trust that the Biden administration, you feel, has extended you, has extended your family. I wonder if there are other differences that you have noted.
We have, and it's hard to tell. It's hard to tell why we have seen them. I'm starting to feel as if Paul is part of an experiment that has been going on in the U.S. government. When Paul was arrested, there was not really any way for the U.S. government to handle a wrongful detainee. They knew how to handle hostages, but you had to be essentially the hostage of a terrorist organization. When you're a hostage of a nation state, you're a wrongful detainee, and there aren't tools to help you. So the first 2 years, we really struggled to get congressional attention initially, and then we had a lot of help from the Michigan delegation to move that forward. But even just to get any attention inside the U.S. government, we were able to reach the lower levels of the State Department and got great support there. But we couldn't break through to the Secretary of State. We couldn't break through to the president. And that was really frustrating because we knew that we needed to get the decision makers on board. What has happened in the last 2 years, and I think it's partly because of a change in philosophy in the White House, but also other tools that have come along. President Biden passed an executive order last summer. We have the Levinson Act now, and there's an approach now where wrongful detainees have a lot more access to tools, their families do. And the government seems to be much more proactive. So, again, it's this evolutionary process that's going on.
An evolution indeed. David Whelan, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us.